Well, good morning, Patriots. Good morning, Americans. Well, last week I did a video about the Memphis police beating, how those 5 officers were apparently members of a gang called the Vice Lords, and that the Memphis City Council lowered the standards of becoming a police officer because they thought it was too stringent. It kept certain people out from getting the job, which they don't realize that's the whole point of the job. Well, right here in my home state of New York, it seems like the NYPD, to no surprise, is having trouble getting people also. To the point where I was talking to a an investigator who's part of the hiring process, and he's saying they're now processing people with Class C felonies for the job. And considering who the Manhattan DA is and how he said he was not going to prosecute certain crimes, I'm sorry, this is a George Soros-backed operation as well. I mean, how else can you take the Constitution unless you have people who uphold the Constitution on your law enforcement workforce? Same thing with city corrections. Rikers Island is a mess. That place is so bad. People are literally just doing 20 and out now in that department, and they say it's wild. They have no control over it whatsoever. I was told by a couple of guys who just retired from there. And meanwhile, about 140 miles up north, even the New York State Police is having trouble getting people. Now, for years, the state police always had this many job openings with that many applicants. And they were tough, man. Unless you got at least a 95 on the civil service test, you would have a prayer of getting hired. And even then, I know many people who try to switch other police departments to go there and were rejected. If you wear glasses or contacts, rejected. You got any tattoos? Boom, gone. No tattoos. If you didn't have a certain body index of height to weight ratio, boom, gone. Their pre-physical fitness test was brutal. You didn't pass that test, boom, gone. I even knew guys who honorably discharged from the military but had some disciplinary problems, boom, rejected. Didn't give them the job. I know a police officer in a department who tried to get there, but because he had too many speed tickets in his youth, boom, wouldn't take him. This is a current police officer who they rejected. I've had people in my department who tried out. One guy, he's like 6'8", thin as a rail, but they said he was too fat. Boom, gone. Even though he was built like a truck. Wouldn't take him. Now, it seems like they are lowering those standards also because they just can't get people. The premier police department of New York State is now lowering the standards. I guess tattoos are now allowed. Certain kinds of tattoos anyway. In certain places. If you wear glasses, it's okay depending on how bad your eyesight is now. This is what I've heard. They're now taking people from other departments who might have had those speed tickets now. That's what I heard. And meanwhile, next door, in the New York State Department of Corrections, between Cuomo and Hochul, 23 prisons have been shut down since they've been in office. Now, if you're saying how many people got laid off, no one got laid off. You know why? Because we've been so short-handed for a while. That department's been so short-handed for a while that they were just transferred to other facilities. And still, they're short-handed. How short-handed are they? Well, it used to be you needed a high school diploma to get the job. Now they'll take a GED. And when that didn't work, they said, you no longer need a driver's license. That's right. To be a law enforcement officer in the state of New York, you don't need a driver's license. Even though all these facilities are in the middle of nowhere, you need a car. There are no buses, there are no subways, there are no commuter trains from most of these facilities. And when that didn't work, they said, no more civil service tests. Just sign up, we'll start investigating you. And when that didn't work, they started sending letters to retired officers who've been retired for anywhere from 1 day to up to 4 years retired to come back and work for $34.18 an hour and still collect your pension. You can pick any jail you want. You can make up to $30,000 a year. Now, to live in New York, you're going to need more than $30,000 a year, so not many people signed up. And then they started proposing legislation to allow the cap to $65,000 because too many retired officers in New York were leaving the state to make money elsewhere because of the cap. And now that hasn't even worked, they have lowered the age to 19 years old to be a correction officer in the state of New York. Now you may say, well, they could join the military at that age. Well, here's the problem. In New York State, correction officers are peace officers. And by law of criminal procedure law in New York State, you have to be 21 to be a peace officer, because to get peace officer status, you have to be able to qualify with 3 different firearms. A Glock 17, a pump-action shotgun, and an AR-15. The problem is, in New York, you can't touch those weapons, or at least the AR and the handgun, until you're 21. So now, the department is going to hire correction officers without peace officer status because they're getting so desperate. But meanwhile, if you were to join the National Guard of New York and the Air National Guard of New York, you could fire those weapons. So it is literally possible for some 18-year-old to come out of high school, join the National Guard, Air National Guard, go to boot camp, be qualified with a 9mm and an AR-15, do reserve work, go to the department, and be told, sorry, you're too young. This is New York State for you. Well, if you're a 14-year-old child, you cannot consent to taking a Tylenol. But if you want to change your sex at 12, totally all right. Links will be down at the bottom. We'll talk to you later.